Hey, welcome to Hired How to Get the Jobs Weekly Review. My name is Tony Martin, and today we're going to be talking about resume mistakes I've seen from my October clients and consults. But I'd be remiss if I didn't wish everyone a happy Veterans Day if you're here in the U.S. And if you are a United States Marine, happy belated Marine Corps birthday. Yesterday we were 245 years old, and if I do say so myself, we've never looked so good. All right, now let's get to a little bit of discussion. So let me tell you who I am. First of all, I'm my name is Tony Martin. I write a blog called How to Get the Job, and I've been doing that for about 5 years. I've been doing resume coaching and interviewing, mock interview coaching, as well as salary negotiation consultations for a while now. And I'm really passionate about helping people. Over my career as a staffing recruiting manager, I've hired thousands of people. No, it's probably a lie. I've hired over 1,000 people, and I've interviewed probably 4,000 or 5,000 people over the course of my career. So I usually know what I'm talking about, but my opinion is just my opinion, and I always challenge you to challenge me. So that's why I would love for people to use the comment section of this. Thanks, Sandy. I appreciate the kind words. Sandy's already got a comment in there, but feel free to use the comments as we're talking here today, okay? If you have questions, you want to get them in when we get to our Q&A in about 14 minutes from now. I take live questions first. I already have one first question because that was Rick who actually asked the question in the invite on LinkedIn. So there's already one question there, but feel free to write your questions. I also have a lot of HR people that pop on these things from time to time. So use this time to say who you are, where you're from, what you do. Don't give a book because remember, recruiters don't read, we scan. But give me some highlights, give them some highlights so as they're in here and maybe they're looking for you, they'll just happen to see your name on the comments, and guess what? They might click on your profile, and then that might help you increase your network. So, but with that, we'll get a little further on here, but as always, make sure you take a look at my YouTube channel, Hired How to Get the Job. I think we got a half dozen or so people actually viewing this from YouTube right now, but always check that out because I stream this on YouTube as well as the Q&As are all there. So many people don't like the first 10 minutes because the first 2 minutes is me talking about myself because I'm trying to get more people to show up and stall some time. And then the next 12 minutes is a class or a lesson of some sort. And then the last 15 is always brand new questions or often brand new questions. And most people like that. So if you want to check out, I don't know, 24 Q&A sessions, go to the YouTube channel and then scroll to the last 15 seconds and you'll always see something like this, Q&A. So it'll be there and you'll know you're in the right time spot on the video. All right, let's get to some resume questions, resume tips, resume things that I saw from last month that were somewhat unique and also very common at the same time for last month. Now, on the first show of the month, because last week was a post-election week or show, I didn't do anything. So this would normally fall on the first show of the month, but or the first show, I should say. This is the first show of the month, but usually the first show of the month would be the first Wednesday of the month. Anyway, I digress. Resume tips. Ready? First thing. The resume is not the place for humility. Again, I say this a lot, but last month I just kept on seeing it. I saw it over and over again. Your resume should read like you are a rock star, that you've accomplished great things. If your resume reads like you are humble, then you are not going to get an interview. The interview, though, is the time for humility. So when I'm calling you and I see that you have a phenomenal bullet on your resume about saving the company $500,000 in the course of 6 months, and I say, hey, how did you do that? That's the time for humility. That's the time to say, well, I had a great team. I was able to hire my own team. Now it's showing your ability to assess talent. I was able to hire my own team. I was able to get a great team. I really leveraged a lot of different business units. I have a lot of good partners in the industry that I was able to work well with. You could even say, hey, my boss was phenomenal and they supported me all along the way. But no matter what you say in the interview, you won't get the interview and a chance to be humble if your resume is humble. If your resume reeks with humility, guess what? It doesn't read well and it reads like you haven't accomplished a lot. So make sure your resume isn't humble. Make sure it is impressive. Next, in those bullets, lead with your accomplishments. Don't lead with somebody else. And here's the example, okay? Think of 2 bullets. Often I will see bullets, last month particular, partnered with business units to identify cost savings and excess spending, saving the company $500,000. Now that's great, right? You save the company $500,000. But guess what? I and other recruiters, we do not read. We scan. You're partnering with business units isn't impressive. You're identifying excess waste and spending isn't really that impressive. Your $500,000 you saved the company, that's impressive. Where's that part of the bullet? It's at the end. Do I ever scan the back of a bullet? No, I scan the front. So put the accomplishment on the front, because true stat here, recruiters spend 8 to 10 seconds scanning a resume, okay? 8 to 10 seconds. Am I ever going to scan the back of the resume, the back of the bullets? No, I'm going to scan the front. You want to make sure you lead with your accomplishment. You don't want to lead with, I partner with other business units, because the other thing that does is you're leading with the job description part of your resume. And what I mean by that is if you read your job description, it probably says identify excess spending or identify excess waste or identify this by partnering with other business units. You've just transposed the job description bullet to the resume and then added the accomplishment on the end. I want you to put the accomplishment on the front and then give me the supporting information or the job description, if you will, on the back. So that's the second thing. Next, follow the instructions that you're given from the company websites when you're applying to jobs. Now, this might not sound like a resume tip, but it is, because often they will tell you if you're submitting this resume, you need to submit it in a Word or RTF because PDF files are not supported. Now, the reason why this comes up in a consult for me is because I'll get a resume as a PDF, which is fine. When you email resumes out to people, you should email a PDF. But obviously, I want to help you get it better, and I want to edit it, and I want to correct it. So I'm going to follow up and say, hey, please send this to me in a Word document. And 1 out of 10 times, I don't have it in a Word document. If you don't have it in a Word document, you need to create it in a Word document, and don't just convert from PDF to Word because your margins are going to be all screwed up. You need to recreate the wheel here. Because if you do submit a PDF document to a website that doesn't support it, and most of them don't, Google does. If you're applying to Google, don't do what I'm saying. But if you apply to most of the other companies, look at their website or look at the careers page, and they'll say, note, please submit the document in a certain type of format. Because when you actually do submit it in a PDF and you click submit, and the next page is supposed to be auto-populated with all the information, they're supposed to parse your information out of there. Guess what? It doesn't get parsed correctly because the darn PDF doesn't read well on the website. So just like you can't convert a PDF to Word and have a perfectly formatted document, you can't parse a PDF and have a perfectly formatted document. It doesn't work. Submit Word documents, okay? Next, write bullets smartly. Now, this is so important that, oops, we want to get rid of that thing. This is so important that I want to really focus on it for a second. Now, I have a whole article on how to get the job.blog on smart resumes and smart bullets. And many of us have heard about SMART goals, okay? But what I want to make us aware of is that SMART bullets are very important because they allow you to use the least amount of words and get the most information on your line. So what do? First, when you're writing a bullet, make sure it's as specific as you can be. Saved $500,000, did this, did that. Make sure it's a specific thing that's measurable. So saying that you have saved $500,000 is good. Saying you saved $500,000 in 2019 is better because you are measuring it. You're making it as measurable as possible, but it's specific, measurable. You were accountable for the accomplishment. Often I will see things from people who had no part in the accomplishment. And let's just say, and I can't think of a role right now, but let's just say you were a janitor. And there's nothing wrong with being a janitor. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you're a janitor, and the company last year hit an all-time record sales revenue numbers. Now, truthfully, as a custodian, did you really have any part in them reaching that threshold? Well, maybe if you had something revolutionary that you did to increase morale, but chances are you probably didn't. But if you write something like that, then you have to be able to back it up with why it's on your resume, why you are proud of it, and what you did about it, okay? Now, there's some times, remember, I hate absolute statements, so never and don't always, those are words I don't like to use. And if I do, I can probably think of a specific time where you don't need to, or you could change what I'm saying. So in this case, if you are somebody who, for example, doesn't have a lot of accomplishments, well, then cherry picking one or two of those that you can kind of relate to and talk to is okay. But your resume shouldn't be littered with things that other people did and that you had no part in. Relevant. Now, this goes to how long should a resume be, right? Because we always get that question. I get that question weekly. How long should my resume be? I hear 1 page, I hear 2 pages. And you might be someone in the audience right now that has that question. And if you do, feel free to give me a thumbs up, because guess what? There's no right answer. The truth is, in my opinion, as long as you follow 3 rules, your resume can be as long as it needs to be. It needs to not repeat bullets. Don't write the same thing. I don't care you did it 20 years ago. Don't write the same thing in multiple jobs. Don't repeat bullets. Make sure that you follow the 75% rule. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then lastly, make sure it's relevant to the job you're applying for. You might have done basket weaving 15 years ago. I was a Marine. I did weapons stuff. Is my weapons stuff actually relevant to the job I'm applying for? Probably not, unless I'm trying to get into the FBI or something like that. But if you're not trying to get into something that your skills are going to be sought after, then leave some of those skills off the paper. Because remember, I scan. I spend 8 to 10 seconds reading the resume. If I spend 8 to 10 seconds scanning the resume, don't give me more stuff to scan through unless it's relevant to the job you're applying for. And lastly, time bound. Make sure you put time allocations is the right word. I don't know. Make sure that you actually bracket what you're talking about in a time frame. So over the last 12 months, over the last 9 months. Now, often your resume format will naturally do that, because maybe what you've accomplished is in as a senior analyst from October of 18 to December of 19. And all these bullets happened in that 14-month period. Maybe that's already there. So you don't need to put specific dates or times. But if you have a functional resume versus a chronological where the date or the timing of the accomplishment isn't quite so clear, then you need to let me know how long it took you to do whatever. So I hope that helps with that. Now let's get back to a few more tips. Again, now listen, we're going to get to Q&A here very soon. Get your question in if you want to make sure it gets asked or answered. I do live questions, prioritize those first. So make sure you're getting those queued up if you have anything. Next, location, headers on resumes. Where should they be, and should you actually have it? And is it that important to actually put your city and state or your physical address? And what about if you're moving to a new city? How do you do all those things? So look, first of all, your header, put your phone number, put your email address, put your LinkedIn profile, and put your city state at the minimum. If you live in a big spread out area, then maybe the city state's good enough. If you live in a very small town, then addresses aren't bad. Often people like me though, when we're looking at that, I'm trying to figure out how long your commute is. And if I just see that you live in Houston, Texas, and I know that from one side to the other, depending on where you are, could take you an hour, I'm gonna be less excited to call you than if you actually put your physical address and I can MapQuest it and see that you're 8 minutes from the building. So it has its purpose, but it's not black and white, it's gray. If you're moving and you're applying to jobs outside of the state, outside of the city, then hopefully you can use one of your friends' addresses on your resume to get them to call you. Because again, if I have 50 applicants that all live in my town, and I have 3 applicants that live in New York City, I'm probably deprioritizing those 3 New York City applicants from calling them. But if I see a Houston address and I pick up the phone and then I talk to you and I find out you live in New York, but you're relocating to Houston, or whatever, guess what? You're still in the running. But you need to make sure that you figure out what I'm looking for and figure out, that's what I'm thinking though. Just so you know, I'm thinking about how far is it going to take you to get here? How long is it going to take you? How much difficulty am I going to get bringing you on board? And you want to eliminate those questions on the front end. There's preferable times to bring that information up in your cover letter, professional summary, or application about relocating. I talked about that on other shows. Feel free to check that out. Okay. All right, and then next question or next resume tip. This is important, and most people don't know this. I, as a recruiter, am more likely to read 2 bullets that are 2 lines long each than 1 bullet that's 3 lines long. Let me say that again. I'm a recruiter. I am more likely to read 4 lines of information broken into 2 bullets than I am to read 3 lines of information on 1 bullet. 3 lines or more feel like a book. I am probably not going to read it. 2 lines per bullet, it's scannable, it's less overwhelming. So keep your 3-line bullets to a minimum. If you do have them, that's fine. Life goes on. But make sure you need every word in there. Make sure there's not ways to actually loosen some of those words by right-clicking on them and finding some synonyms that are less characters. I've done videos on character counts on your resume. But that'll help you, okay? But remember, keep it short. 75% rule. 75% of your bullets should be accomplishments. 25% or less should be job description in nature. That's as close to an absolute statement as I can get, unless you're newly graduating college and you don't have that many accomplishments. Then it's a different discussion, and let's talk through that, because it's probably now not more specific accomplishments. It's more your demeanor and your character and things like that that are going to matter. But there's ways to flush that out as well. And then the last thing we'll talk about before we get to Q&A is use the numbers as numbers in your resume. Don't write the numbers out, okay? What I mean by that, don't write out the word 8, E-I-G-H-T. Write the number 8 using 1 character versus, what is that, 5 or 6? E-I-G-H-T, 5. That's right. So it takes less characters, less space. You've saved 4 characters of space by writing the number. When I scan a resume, I scan numbers. I look for the numbers. So I'm more likely to see the number and then read what it's about than read the number 8 or the word 8. I probably am going to miss that. And then the last thing when it comes to this thing is try to put those numbers on the front of your resume again, because that's often the number is often your accomplishment. If the number is on the back of the bullet, on the back of the topic you're discussing, I might miss it. But if it's the front of your bullet, again, I scan. I don't read. I'm scanning the number. I'm going to say, hey, what is this all about? And then I might read the rest of it. But put it on the front. Give yourself a chance to actually be seen. Now, before we get to our Q&A, let me say this. If you knew all of those, then it's probably because you follow me on Instagram. Because on Instagram, daily, first of all, I try to do weekly fun stuff that's funny with animals and things like that for posts to make you laugh. But daily, I am doing live video feeds of the resumes I'm actually writing and reviewing. I am popping in a resume on Instagram at hired_how-to-get-the-job. So go follow me on Instagram. I am often going in there and saying, hey guys, quick tip, take a look at this resume, blah, 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 blah. I whitewash all the personal information. So if you ever do send me a resume, know that you're never going to be outed. But people can learn just like this. You're learning from someone else's mistakes. Other people can learn from your mistakes. So be sure that you actually take a look at that Instagram, because it's going to be so important for you, because I just don't have time to do all these videos all the time. But that, while I'm doing a resume consult or writing a resume, I can easily hold up the camera, say, hey guys, be aware of this, and then pop back out. And chances are every single month when I do the resume review of last week's mistakes or last month's mistakes, you'll be like, yep, I knew that, because I covered it all on Instagram. All right, so now let's get to Q&A. If you do have a question, type it in. I will get to it. I don't see any live stuff first, so that's fine. Rick in Cyprus actually asked me a question on the LinkedIn profile or the LinkedIn invite that many of you are watching from right now. So let me read Rick's question, and then I'll answer it. And it's a unique question. I actually haven't heard this one before, so it was a good one. I'd like to know if there are certain formats that are just hands down better than others when dealing with resumes. Have times changed enough that a resume that has more design flair is better to catch attention and show your skills? Or is it still the tried and true objective work history, skills, education with bullets? Just curious if you're seeing any trends to reflect a more modernization of the resume. Now, that's a super interesting question because it really depends on what we're talking about. If your resume is going out to people just randomly and you're spreading it out, you're networking, the graphs are cool, the pie charts on the right and things like that. But often when I look at them, they don't tell me much. They tell me as much as a skills section does on a resume. And if you've ever watched any of my stuff, I don't like the skills section unless you're an engineer or an IT person. They often don't give me much. They create a lot of questions internally for me. So I don't personally like all those graphs and things. I much rather have substance. Now, on an applicant tracking system, those graphs don't work at all, okay? Those new great formats that are super cool to look at. Well, when you submit it to their company website, guess what? It doesn't translate well from the AI applicant tracking system. It just doesn't. So for me personally, I like the tried and true method of having information that follows the SMART format, but is also written a specific way that's going to allow me to know where it is. I always say a resume isn't a mystery novel. I shouldn't have to hunt and peck for it, or it's not a game of hide and seek. I should be able to predict where the information is going to be. And that's true. And then when it comes to trying to figure out the right format, I just prefer to have it a certain way where it's actually more words and less flair, as Rick likes to say. Now, I did mention the applicant tracking system and the AI, right? Artificial intelligence. Let me put hopefully some stressors to bay. Most companies don't have a robust applicant tracking system with an artificially intelligence powered thing behind it that's automatically sifting through resumes, and it's just an expensive system. Most companies typically, and I say most, I'm saying like 80% or more, most companies are still going to have an applicant tracking system of some sort where the recruiter is typing in some questions, and depending on how you answer those questions is going to dictate whether you get an interview or not. It is much more important to answer those questions correctly than to worry about the ATS system. Now, certainly use keywords, and you do that by using your job description. You look at the job description, you make sure that you highlight those keywords in your resume. I don't mean highlight making them bold and highlight them. I mean that you make sure that if it says you have to have something, that you write you've done that. Okay, you don't say per your job description, but you just write it as if you were applying to the job and you want them to know that you've done all the stuff they're looking for. But you want to make sure you're customizing with those keywords, and I think that's it for that. So yeah, hopefully that helped Rick a little bit. Will in Houston asked me, going on a final interview over dinner with the CEO of the company, is there any advice? Now, this was a great conversation I had last week with Will. So Will was when you go to dinner with the CEO, you're in the final stages of the interview process, right? Usually the dinner's kind of a formality, because they're not going to waste their time. It's like when I was dating. When I was dating, I went for dinner with people on the front end when I was 20 to 25 to 27. I was doing dinner. And then I got the inkling like, gosh, dinner's like an hour and a half long. It's costly. That's a lot of money to spend on someone I just met and I'm not sure I'm going to like. And if I figure out at the appetizer that I don't like this person, now I'm dug in for another hour and a half. Let's just do drinks. So if the CEO is taking you to dinner, it's kind of the same thing. They've already figured out what I figured out when I was 30 years old. They like you. They know they like you, and they want to invest some time into you. So most of the time, the dinner is more of a formality of the offer to come, and we're kind of just feeling each other out. So just don't be stressed about it. You know your value. You know all the things it took for you to get to that dinner invitation, that dinner interview, if you will. But when you do that dinner interview, don't read a script. Don't be going off of memorization. Just be yourself, because at this point, it's about you being a culture fit for the organization. It's about you just getting along. And Figuring out the social cues. If they get a beer, you can get a beer. If they order an iced tea, you order a Coke or whatever. But figure out, what, don't be the first to order the drink. Or just say, if they say, hey, the waiter comes and they go to you first for the drink order, a water's good for right now. Then you see what that person gets. Oh, you know what, that sounds good. I'll get one of those too. Let them set the tone for what you're going to do. Don't go in there guns blazing and say, yeah, I'm going to get an old fashioned, and then find out that everyone there is a recovering alcoholic drinking water. Okay. So hopefully I know that helped Will a lot. Actually, Will got the offer. He accepted the offer and he's relocating next week. So I'm really excited for Will. Again, if you have any questions, we got 5 more minutes for live questions. I always love live questions. And thanks, Lisa, for liking the analogy. Oh, what are your thoughts on, all right, let me see. So David's got a question here. We're going to pull David's question in. What are your thoughts on lowering your experience level to pursue less senior roles? David, it's going to come out, right? If you try to act like you're less experienced than you are, it's going to come out inevitably. And the question you're going to get in the phone screen when they say, how many years of experience do you have? And you say 20, and they say, well, your resume says more than 10. Well, yeah, but that's because I wanted this job. Okay, that's fine. The question they're going to have then is, what are you looking to make? And that's going to be the more important question you need to know how to answer. I'm okay with you doing that. And frankly, David, most of the, and by the way, Semper Fi, since I know you were a Marine, most of the times when that happens, though, it kind of, well, it's gonna show like you're hiding something, right? Because it's going to look like your resume might have started 10 years later than it really did. I would much rather you address this on your cover letter. I would much rather you show your experience as is, and then on your cover letter, when you're writing that to the HR professionals or whatever, you're going to say in your cover letter, you might, I'm really, dear so-and-so, as you look at my resume, you'll see I'm applying for this role at your company. You might wonder why, when I have 20 years of experience, am I applying for a role that requires 5? The truth is, I am passionate about the operations. I'm less passionate about management, whatever. But justify it in that first half or the second half of the first sentence. Justify why you're applying for that role that might be quote unquote lesser than you. And then also realize that you're going to be assumed that you want more money because you're more experienced. If that's the case, you're going to need to be able to talk your way around the salary side. And David, I'm happy to talk with you about that for sure. I get that question a lot on the salary side, and I can't get into it unless someone asks me about how do I answer the question about salaries. I can't quite get into it because I want to make sure I get to all the questions. But yeah, happy to work through that with you. Hope that helps. Zainab, I hope I got your name right. If I didn't, Zainab, I think maybe Zainab, because I think it's a softer A. Anyway, are objectives still used on resumes, or should they still be used? Okay, so now typically what I'll see on the very, very top of a resume, I'll see objective summary or objective, and if you're brand new out of college, the top of your resume should be an objective, okay? Because you don't really have much of a career to summarize. But if you're a professional who've been doing this for at least 5 years, you should have a professional summary on the top of your resume, summarizing your experience, but really specifically summarizing your experience to qualify you for the job you're actually applying for, okay? You don't want it to be a whole bunch of stuff about your family and work history when that's not relevant. You want it to be about the experience that's relevant and summarizing the experience relevant for the job you're applying for. I think I have a video about how to tailor that professional summary specifically for the job you're applying for with the most level of success over on my YouTube channel, so check that out. But now, when you're doing your bullets, I don't really see objective bullets, honestly, anymore. I see more accomplishment-based bullets. I see sometimes skills, which can be in there, but typically that's what I see. I think if you're writing an objective, you might be missing what you're trying to target, because you want to make sure that the resume, it's about you, right? But the resume is about me, but it's also about why you want to hire me. And if I make the resume all about what I'm looking to do, what about me and this, sometimes it can come off wrong. It's not even that it comes across arrogant, because arrogance is good in a resume, but it just comes off like a little bit wrong. So I hope that helps, but feel free, follow up with me, send me an instant message privately, and I can talk more about that with you. I'd be happy to. Quit chat. Okay, so changing industries from Brandon. Brandon, I hope you're doing well, man. I haven't seen you in, what, 15 years or so? Chat challenges, rewriting our resume and communication skills. Yes. So yeah, and that's right. Frontier Days. I knew exactly who you were, Brandon. So Brandon's changing industries. I work on resumes. 50% of the resumes I work on are for people changing industries. They're trying to get out of deep water oil and gas, and go into manufacturing, go into something else. Quick tips, Brandon, on changing industries. First of all, get rid of your normal equipment stuff. Okay, I forgot you were like an assistant rig manager. So talk about over a facility, not a rig. Talk about you were over an $800 million asset versus a drill ship, whatever. Or if you were doing stuff with this mechanical equipment, talk about the value of the mechanical equipment and what it actually does versus the type or the specific name of the mechanical hydraulic BOP system. That's the first thing. I think actually, Brandon, I got to do a video. I'm writing these down because I got to do a video on changing industries and some ways you can video. Sorry, this is real time, right? Changing industries. Okay, I got to do a video on that to help you out, Brandon, and help others out, because that is something that I come across a lot. You know, and maybe next week when I do the link to the show, that'll be the topic I discuss as well. But get out of the specifics, stay generic. Reach out to people who are in those industries you're trying to apply for, in lateral positions that you'd be interested in. Try to befriend them on LinkedIn, connect with them, and then pick their brain and ask them for their expert opinion. When you reach out to someone, Brandon, asking them for their expert opinion, you'll often get a response because now you're playing to their ego and they feel good about being called an expert and they want to respond. So I hope that helps, Brandon. But again, Brandon, send me an instant message. Let's talk more about that. All right, the salary question. Here it is. I love the salary questions. All right, when you get ready, you are going to get the salary question, right? What am I looking to make? What are you looking to make? Be prepared for that question on the first phone screen. First, how do you do that? But when you apply to the job, when you hear about the job, when you are alerted that this job is what you want, you go to 3 places: salary.com, payscale.com, Indeed. You can also go, if it's oil and gas, SPE. They have a good spot for their members to do salary salary estimations. And also go to Glassdoor. So salary.com, payscale.com, Indeed, Glassdoor. Go to those 4 websites when you apply to the job. Research what that job should pay. When you get the phone call then, a week later, a month later, and they ask you, Andre, what are you looking to make? You can say, from what my research shows, it looks like this job should pay somewhere around 140,000 US dollars a year, and that seems reasonable to me. That's it. You've never actually told me what you want to make. So you haven't boxed yourself into a low number, right? You haven't told me what you want to make, so you haven't disqualified yourself from a high number if your number is too high. So if I, as the recruiter, then come back to you and go, well, you know, unfortunately, this job pays 100, you can then easily come back and go, well, tell me more about that, because I didn't even tell you what I was looking for. I just told you what I thought the job should pay, but maybe I'm not quite clear on the details of the position. Okay? So you say you think based on what it should pay. Next, what this does is that, let's just say you say 140 and they don't say anything, or they say, yeah, you're within budget. Great. Well, you might think, well, now I've boxed myself in and I have to take 140. No, you don't. 1 month from now, you get your offer. And it's imagine that it's 142.5, because we want you to know that we care about you and we're not going to give you the bottom. We're going to give you more than what you asked for. Yeah, $2,000 more a month, $200 more a month. But either way, it's a psychological game that now you kind of feel like, oh, I can't ask for more. I told them 140 and they gave me 142.5. No, you didn't. You never told me you wanted 140. You said you thought the job should pay 140. So when you get the offer, you can very easily call the recruiter and say, hey, Tony, I got the offer, super excited. Thank you so much. But I was kind of hoping for 155. But you said 140. No. I said I thought the job should pay 140. And at that time, I had a job description that was 1 page long, and I had a 10-minute conversation with you about the role. And since then, I've had 4 interviews. I've learned more about the role as you've learned more about me. I've learned that the P&L isn't 500,000, it's actually $1 million. I learned that, yeah, I do have 3 direct reports, but I also have 15 indirect reports. You can start building up the role to be a lot bigger or more accurate, and then you can justify why you want 155. And you can even say, look, I'm not saying I won't take 140. I'm just wondering, or 142.5. I'm just wondering, is there any wiggle room here? This allows you to continue to negotiate. But if on the first phone call you say, I'm looking for 140, then it's very difficult for you to say, I want 142.5. Because you've now said what you want. So be careful. There's a way to frame the answer. Happy to talk about it with you more. Again, Facebook me, Instagram me, LinkedIn me, and I'll give you more. So that is all the live questions I see, which is fantastic. Thank you so much for watching. Now, let me give you, before you run off like wild people, let me tell you what's going on. One more reason. I'm plugging the Instagram this week, and here's why. I've grown this monstrosity on my face for 3 weeks. I'm going on a guy's trip tomorrow with 7 years in a row. Me and my buddies, we all go on this trip where we fish together and we just spend some time together. We're doing a crazy facial hair thing tomorrow, and I think I'm actually shaving all this off, and I might have a Civil War stash, which means just shave this, and it's going to look really ridiculous. Bottom line, I'm only showing that on Instagram because I want it to be gone 24 hours after I post it. So follow me over there at Hired How to Get the Job on Instagram. Connect with me. I'll post it up tonight when I do it, and it should be pretty funny. But by next week, it'll be gone because you never want to be seen too long looking ridiculous, right? But sometimes you just got to let loose. So I will be out of pocket next couple of days. But however, as always, thank you so much for watching. If you did like this, please feel free to give me a thumbs up on the Instagram. Or excuse me, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. Please share this. If you thought any of this information was valuable, that you think other people could benefit from it, please share it. And if you think you need help with your resume, send me it. Let me talk to you. I'll do a free 30-minute consult. There's never a fee to talk to me about your resume. Once we decide to partner together, that's where a fee might come in. But initially, let's talk for 30 minutes. I will go over your resume, spend 30 minutes with you, telling you all the things I think you can do to make it sharper and stronger. And if at the end of that you want to partner, then great, let's do it. But if not, no worries at all. But yeah, so with that, I hope you have a great week. Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there. Happy belated Marine Corps birthday. Make sure you share this and help me connect with anyone that might need me to show them how to get the job. I'll see you next time. Take care.